Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Huddle. And thanks to you all for your feedback on that opening video. Sounds like some of you like it with the music.
Sounds like Night Court.
Yeah.
And speaking of comments, apparently some of you guys don't like my black nail polish. My father told me that there's no comments in the chat that I got to change my nail color for y'all. So I'll work on that. What color are your nails today, Sean? Just kidding.
I want it very clear.
You use polish or no polish, Sean?
I just buff. I just buff
Okay.
them. You know,
Yeah.
it's so much better.
I love that you know what buffing nails is. Like, that's actually very endearing. Good news today. We have our first sponsor, which makes us feel very official. Very cool. We'll get to that later in the show. But first of all, just a preview on that. So today we're going to talk about the latest on Venezuela. Obviously, a lot still percolating on that. We'll discuss the domestic politics of this foreign shock and awe strategy that the president is employing right now. We'll talk about the House's slim margin after some sad news House Republicans got yesterday. We'll discuss this little healthcare deja vu now that the Obamacare premium discussion is coming up again and whether there'll be any differences this time. And then we'll get into, once again, some issues Mamdani is having with some of his personnel problems. But first, the daybook, guys. 10 a.m., Speaker Mike Johnson, Leader Scalise, Tom Emmer, Republican leadership basically holding their press conference at 10:45. Democrats will do the same on the other side of the House. The House is going to be meeting for legislative business. Let's see, 11 a.m. We'll have a press conference from Caroline Leavitt and also cabinet officials. You can guess what's going to be the number one priority for a lot of Republicans. Venezuela, but also
I
Greenland.
don't know. I'll be interested. I think we could look. I'm intrigued because there's so much going on with the CDC schedule. It could be Bobby. You could have some DHS stuff on Homeland Security. Obviously, Marco and P. I mean, like, this is a fielder's choice.
Sean, is that a little bit of a problem?
I would be shocked,
by the way,
if we get any other questions beyond foreign policy. 220 senators, Tim Kaine, obviously Democrat, and Rand Paul, Republican, Libertarian, holding a pen and pad on their war powers resolution, which is going to be getting a vote this week. And at 2:30, the president's going to be signing executive orders in the Oval Office. We should also flag that Energy Secretary Chris Wright is expected to meet in Miami today with a bunch of oil company executives, and we'll discuss that here in this first item.
All right, wait, and we have to play our favorite game because the executive orders is closed press. Sean, chances the press is in the room for the EO signing today?
100.
150.
This one goes to 11. Okay.
He's pretty chatty right now. I mean,
you know, the funny thing is, can I just say this, though, just from a logistics standpoint, back in the day, you know, and I love talking about tradition in the context of Trump because it doesn't mean anything. But back in the day, you know, the press secretary would, if the president was speaking, the press secretary would gaggle off camera or doing it because you would never want staff to get in front of the president or to overshadow the president. And so Caroline generally doesn't brief on big days. And so that's the one X factor. But considering everything that's happening and the fact that they're going at 11 a.m. So it's like the president's going to watch this all and then go, all right, did they do okay? Or do I have to go clean up what was said or amplify something? So I find it fascinating that he's going at 2:00. It's just like, you know.
It's not just her, that like it's the cabinet officials, right? Who are coming. I mean, I'm sure Rubio will be in there. I would think.
I don't know. It depends what news they want to make. So
that's true. That's true. And who knows? I mean, the president come up
Wednesday.
and put his own stamp on it and sort of like trump everything that they were trying to put out in terms of talking points. So that'll be fun.
Right.
Just a quick note before we jump in. Once again, guys, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to the search bar on the YouTube screen and type in at the DC Huddle. Sorry, at the DC Huddle. Subscribe right now. Our numbers are going up. We really appreciate that. Or go to thedchuddle.com, sign up for our email list. Some of you guys have asked about a blast right before the show where you can sort of click it. You should be getting that if you sign up for the email. So definitely do that. All right. Venezuela, two angles we're going to explore today, oil and sort of the security latest. We are seeing this sort of increased strategy, or not increased strategy. We are seeing the strategy very much center on oil when it comes to the administration in two ways. Number one, pressuring them economically, the regime, the remainder of the regime. And number two, also what's in it for the U.S., which the president had some news on last night. So Secretary Mark Rubio, he told lawmakers in a private briefing Monday that he thinks the U.S. can force Venezuela's hand and force them to do whatever the U.S. frankly wants because of these sort of this blockade on the existing oil tankers. He said that he thinks that the capital is going to be financially insolvent in just a couple of weeks because of this blockade. And then we have some news, I think the Wall Street Journal reporting this morning that the U.S. is attempting to intercept one of those tankers, actually, as we speak right now.
That's being escorted supposedly by a Russian submarine. So,
right, which
just, by the way,
escalates the situation. We'll get to that in a minute. But yesterday, the president also made an announcement last night. Let's put up element 1 from Truth Social, that Venezuela is going to be turning over 30 to 50 million barrels of oil. It's going to be transported directly to loading docks here in the U.S. And he's sort of boasting about that. We also have another element 2, what he said to Morning Joe yesterday, TV host. Joe, the difference between Iraq and this is former President George W. Bush didn't keep the oil. We're going to keep the oil. Sean, let's just start there. Like, he seems to think that if he can sell this as like an oil profitable thing, that this is going to help people's bottom lines here in the U.S., this is gonna go over well with the American public. Do you think that works? Like, is that the way you would lean into this? Because it's a different pitch than, your standard national security pitch or pitch about.
First, let me just throw out my standard disclaimer about my disgust of this statement, which is probably the only, I'm the only one that's seeing it from this angle, but I'm still disgusted that he's talking to Joe Scarborough. I feel like that's the kind of stuff that burns me. There's so many people that he could be talking to or giving insight to, as opposed to somebody who trashes him and has betrayed him. That being said, look, the funny part about this whole thing to me is it goes back to what I said yesterday about the dynamic and the paradigm that everyone looks at these things through. Like, Trump gets it. He's not trying to get wrapped in some quagmire with boots on the ground and talk about decades long regime change. He's like, we're going to go in, we're going to extract a leader, then we're going to take their oil, and I'm going to sell it as you get the benefit. The thing about the discussion that we have, frankly, here, and that will happen on cable on so many stations, will be like, well, is this the right thing to do? And what precedent does this set? But average people who, like I said, I may not be the most average dude anymore, but I'm still a cheap, frugal guy. And I did it again this morning. I drove carpool, and the first thing I look at when I took the turn onto Quaker Lane was the price of gas. And it's $2.75 at 2 stations right now. And so if you're like me right now, and you're wondering how am I affording, how much is gas going to cost me when I fill up this week? And if it's going down, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm pretty much on board with what the president of the United States is doing. And the president, from a message standpoint, to your broader question, gets it. He's not framing this as some geopolitical, idea that we have to, understand our place in the world and how we're going to be the world's policeman. He's saying, I'm going to actually make your life cheaper and more affordable. Boom. And I think that's the takeaway that this administration clearly gets.
Dan, Democrats seem to be banking on this notion that a lot of Americans will take this, that it's all about the oil, and be repulsed by it in some way. Do you think that calculation is right? Like, Dems going out there saying, oh, it's all about the oil. I mean, the president's saying, yeah, it's all about the oil. Like, do you think Democrats are miscalculating on this, or are Republicans totally betting that Americans are more selfish than they are?
Well, I think both things can be true, which is I agree with Sean. Like, if you wake up today and you see that headline that we're getting 30 to 50 million barrels of oil, you're like, great, because I think, Sean, you're absolutely right. People just say, can I fill my car up? Can I drive on spring, my family on spring break or whatever? And they will say, okay, he did something. We talked yesterday about the polling being kind of that big gap of undecided. You're trying to fill in that picture. This is tangible. This is real life of real people stuff. Where I think there's a bigger problem is this was the oil that was sitting in these tankers for the last, month while we did the blockade. What's also out there are all these stories, whether it's in Washington Post, Bloomberg, in various places, that the oil companies are saying, we have real concerns. So the administration is talking about partnering with the government, but the oil companies are saying, what if you're not in control in 3 years? They're saying it will take them a decade of investment to reap a profit. And they're very, very nervous about spending all of this money in a place that is so unstable, because there are stories today that the government is stopping people and searching cell phones to see who cooperated with the US. The gangs continue to roam around the streets. So totally agree with Sean. Today's headline, great for the administration.
Is that at Hilton or in the
But I mean, the big picture is just, the longer we're there, do Americans feel like this is time being well spent and money being well invested? I think the jury's out.
Can I just, statistically speaking, or just looking at numbers, I should say, we're talking about 30 to 50 million barrels of oil a day. I was reading that the U.S. roughly uses 20 million barrels a day already. So It actually doesn't seem like that much. Maybe I'm missing something. Am I missing something? I don't know.
No, but the headline is there. I mean, to Sean's point, look, we're a political show.
People read the headlines.
People read the headlines and just say, okay, that's good for us right there. It's just now like, how do you keep this going? And how do you ensure Venezuela doesn't kind of, go off the rails here? That's the big question. I mean, what if the next headline is oil companies balk and won't go in?
Yeah.
Now it's like, all right, what are we doing?
Well, speaking of the security situation, that was sort of where I wanted to go next, because there is this sort of tension ratcheting up between the interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, who we obviously, I don't want to say support, but, support her in power for now. Yeah. And this other regime leader, Cabello, this military guy who apparently has this terrible reputation for torturing people and just being, a total bear on everybody. The message, there has apparently been a message from this Cabello guy to military personnel saying that they need to resist U.S. influence and that the U.S. is going to live to regret this. There's been some reporting suggesting the Trump administration has put him on notice, sending some sort of message saying,
you think?
Stop, or you're going to get
Is there going to be a true social with the bullseye on the guy here? Is that basically what we're coming to soon? Yeah.
Well, the new verb, guys, is maduroed. Yeah. Okay, there you go. So play nice or else. I guess I'm wondering, Sean, is that enough? Is a threat like that enough? Or without boots on the ground, how are they going to be able to corral this guy? And do you think we could see another, in going in there and picking somebody up and bringing them back to the U.S.?
Or does the CIA go in and take them out? I mean, there's a lot of options that you don't need necessarily to have a full-on military extraction. You can take somebody out in a lot of ways. Or you can have it done domestically through some nefarious ways as well. So
we got a guy.
We got a guy. We got some guys in Rhode Island that can probably help too. So I'm just saying, there's a lot of ways to address this problem. I also, one of the things that's interesting, when I was having this discussion with Tim Parlatore on my show, Venezuela's constitution is not like ours. Rodriguez is the vice president, but the Venezuelan constitution doesn't allow for the vice president to necessarily succeed the president. There will have to be, she is the interim president for a reason. It's not like the United States where you just ascend to that position. So this is, by all accounts, going to be a temporary structure that they have to figure out. And that's why when the president gets asked, when will there be elections? It's not just some sort of theoretical discussion. Academic exercise. This is legitimately what the Constitution of Venezuela would call for. So I will be interested.
This is the problem, though. I mean, this is the problem, which is we don't have anyone on the ground. Our threat, our leverage is the U.S. military sitting offshore. So the question is, would we?
But is it? But Dan, that's what I get to. Is it? is the threat really that we're going to send in 10,000 troops, or is it that we're going to take you out?
Right. But right. So play that out, right? Which is, are we going to go in and take out the next person? So the next headline is we assassinate, the guy disappears, whatever.
Disappears.
We, a drone strike, on this. Is that how we're going to govern? Right. Which is to say, we're going to threat. And if you don't listen, we're going to kill you. And you just have to play it out. It's a country of 29 million people, bigger than California. And I go back to the government is stopping people and searching cell phones, and the gangs are roaming around. So how do you get all of that under control to have a reasonably functioning country if all you're doing is sitting offshore with missiles and drones? You're going to say if the police commissioner doesn't listen, we're going to kill you too? Like, that's a tough way to govern.
I have
Hasn't
wondered
worked well historically anywhere in the world.
I have wondered how Rodriguez is going to stay in power for now, in the interim, if you have people like this Cabello guy running around saying anybody who has anything to do with the U.S., we're going to, take you out. She's going to have to deal with people thinking that she's a puppet of the U.S. And that goes very much against all her friends who were in the Maduro's,
Yeah, but again, look, we're part of this is that we're playing this out as if there are ways. It's not like there's one person. The State Department, CIA, military advisors are in there. My guess is having discussions and back channeling some pretty big things with people. So there's deals to be had. It's not just threats, Dan. It's also, hey,
that's right.
You could stay in power under our scenario if you do the following. And at the end of the day, most of these people, let's just say that I think that they might, some people might use the phrase corruption. But I think there's ways to buy people off too. So it's not just all carrot. It's a little, it's not all stick. It's a little carrot.
What we did in Iraq. Yeah, we bought people off left and right.
Right. So I think part of this is trying to figure out the right recipe. Who can you buy off? Who can you threaten to get ultimately what you want? And this is going to take a little bit of finagling. But my guess is that there's also a little bit of saber rattling down there, to your point. Like some of these folks are saying, hey, I'm not getting my due. I'm going to show you that I can roar and I want to be taken care of. So look, as I pointed out yesterday, we're now 96 hours out of this thing. Let's, so far, so good. Let's see how this thing continues to move. But I actually think that so far we're moving in the right direction. The administration's playing this domestically very well and keeping a lid on it foreign policy wise.
Let's zoom out a little bit because the world right now is very much spinning from all of this news, especially when it comes to, Greenland. A lot of people talking about Greenland right now. The Danes are worried that the U.S. military is going to take Greenland. You have Senate Republicans who feel it necessary to go on record to say that would be a bad idea and poo-pooing this idea. And then the lead headline in Axios this morning is, let's pull up number 3, NATO Death Watch. There it is. A little dramatic there, but this suggested that if the U.S. were to take over Greenland, that it would be the end of NATO. Dan, let's talk about how your party is sort of handling this heading into the midterms. There's so much going on. I mean, it's not just Venezuela. It's not just Greenland. There's talk about Cuba, Colombia. What is the best position do you think the party should be taking on this? Is it?
I mean, I would go to what I said yesterday. And we were all texting before the tip sheets came out this morning about this kind of shock. And this reminds me of the shock and awe of the first 2 months of the Trump White House domestically, when they were going after universities and law firms, and you had Doge and the immigration stuff was cranking up. And it was every day was just this onslaught where you didn't know where to turn. You're kind of seeing a 2.0 version of that overseas right now. I mean, if you just go to any major news source, right, left, anywhere, the first, 3 or 4 pages or the, top of the scroll is all foreign policy. And a lot of this is kind of our proactive efforts with various things. Obviously, Ukraine is not a proactive. The question I wonder is, do Americans look at this and, we talked about oil, that okay, it's coming back, that's my life, and just say yeah, but what about all the problems we have here? I mean, what about housing? What about jobs? What about healthcare? Does the administration risk And Sean, I'm really curious what you think. And Rachel, if I'm running the NRSC or the NRCC, I don't want to have this dominating the conversation. I mean, I want some stuff in the wheelhouse for my candidates to be on the attack, to be able to point to. And I don't think it's all of this. And I think Americans start to say, Jesus, this is exhausting. Like, focus on me, focus on exactly what I need in my life. So if I'm a Democrat, I would stay focused on healthcare, the economy. I would not get into like picking apart process on all of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like it's obviously a challenge. I mean, I think privately more Republicans will admit that this is a concern than publicly. But yeah, I mean, go ahead, Sean. Jump right in. You think Sean said that you could do both. You can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Well, and I'll just add one thing, which is that like it looks like Iran may be teetering on collapse right now. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. So like, okay, you got Venezuela going, you got Greenland going, you got the Ukraine conversation going where you're frustrated with Putin. Are you going to now like lean in and try to help Iran like finish the job here?
What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, three things. One, let's just be clear. The Boy Scouts could take Greenland. It doesn't need to be a military operation. There's 20,000 people in Nuuk. I mean, this is not like literally there are, troops in the Boy Scouts that could probably invade Venezuela. I mean, Greenland and have it taken out in 30 minutes or less. Number two, I will see Dan's point on this. Like if I were the administration, I would ramp up the discussion on Greenland to really talk about rare earth minerals, how that's important to our long-term viability, right? This is a massive issue. Right now, China controls the vast sum of rare earth minerals that are accessible now. I mean, there are a lot of places where I think in the long term you could mine them. But in the here and now, they shut those things off. That's your computer, that's your iPhone, that's your car, right? Boom, 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 boom. That's your TV. Everything shuts down without access to rare earth minerals to do a variety of things. The administration, I think, would be wise to, like they have in Venezuela, really make the case why you're talking about Greenland, why it impacts the people day to day in the United States, our national security, our ability to operate so many things in our daily lives. So that's two. Three, I've got to bet that when it comes to the midterms and the domestic political concerns, if I'm the administration right now, you have bet that the big, beautiful bill, the interest rates, everything that you've done is either going to work or it's not, right? This, as I've said before, if you can tell me what the economy looks like in the second half of July, beginning of August, I'll tell you who wins the midterms. And right now, I think that they have, with all this foreign direct investment, the big, beautiful bill, the tax cuts, et cetera, they have put all the money on red, pushed all the chips to that side and said, let's roll. And either that bet plays out, which I think it will, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you're screwed. If it does, it doesn't matter. You could be literally partying in Greenland every night and you will win.
Let's take a minute now to do a word from our sponsor. Sean's going to take the lead on this.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I know we talked about how great our Christmas was. I scored big because I gave so many Cozy Earth gifts. It was unbelievable. I talked before with Dan about this, but I did the eye shade, the pajamas. I have a t-shirt. I gave away the towels, which were a big hit. I mean, literally, I think everybody was like, wow, Cozy Earth. But to a T, I got something for everybody, including a few things for myself. From Cozy Earth. And it was amazing how many times people were like, that's amazing. The bamboo, the eye shade. If you are someone that needs an eye shade to sleep, I have tried them all. The Cozy Earth eye shade, hands down the best. The pajamas, massive hit. The towels, massive hit. So I don't know, Dan, I know you've
yeah, I'll just in our house, my wife is a very picky pajama person. She tends to get pretty dry skin in the winter, and she sent me a note proactively without prompting saying how much she loves the Cozy Earth pajamas. And she has ordered more herself after she got them earlier this year. So
I'm not kidding. I'm not doing this on camera. I have the joggers on right now. I love the material is amazing. It's so comfortable. And if you go to cozyearth.com and use code HUDDLE, HUDDLE, for those who are spelling challenged like myself, CozyEarth.com, use Huddle, 20% off. And I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. So Rachel, we're gonna get you Cozy Earth up.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to try all this. Over the break, at one point, guys, we were on some sort of call, and Sean like turned his camera, and you could see all the Cozy Earth boxes. It was,
The
like,
boxes.
They got the
I was
blanket
like,
is on the-
wow,
yeah,
you're like
right,
a
right
real.
here.
Yeah, by the way, that
True
blanket.
believer.
The
It was
bubble
funny.
blanket.
I bought
You
the
want
I
it.
bought the bubble blanket. I know Dan talked a big game on it, so I'm like, all right, I need a bubble blanket. And I swear, I said to my wife, like, who should we give this to? And she goes, could we keep it?
Yeah, the kids fight over it. Yeah,
It's the most comfortable blanket. It is unbelievable. You put that on the couch, and you are like in nap heaven. So,
All right.
Anyway,
Well, thanks to Cozy Earth.
CozyEarth.com, code Huddle.
Thanks to Cozy Earth. Let's now talk about the House margins. So yesterday was obviously supposed to be a happy celebratory day for Republicans. They were doing this sort of rah day at the Trump Kennedy Center, supposed to talk about their 2026 agenda, and they get this double whammy of bad news. First, they learned that they lost a dear colleague, Congressman Doug LaMoffa. Turned out that he died. He's only 65 years old. I actually didn't know him super well, but everybody says he was like super sweet. Sean, did you know him?
I met him.
Okay.
He was just literally a nice guy. Like he
Yeah,
wasn't a hard charging kind of, but to your point, everyone that I knew and every interaction I had with him was very kind. And so by all accounts, somebody that people really enjoyed being around.
So that happens, or they get the news of that, and then they learn that Jim Bard of Indiana was in a car accident and was like very badly hurt, like hospitalized. We got news later in the day that he's going to be just fine, but all of a sudden, the House margin looks even tighter, right?
And by the way, I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene just resigned her seat. You're not going to have that special until March. Right. And Mikey Sherrill, the Democrat who became governor of New Jersey, resigned her seat, but there's going to be a special, I think. Yeah. So you're talking, I mean, literally, Rachel, to your point about car accidents, sickness, family issues, like you've got technically a 2-vote majority. Tom Massey is not with you most of the time. That's a 1-seat majority. You're doing bed checks every night now.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're like, no one is allowed out after 9. I think that Mike Johnson there is probably a little concerned about like day to day.
Well, and the problem is he
was concerned before all of this. Yeah.
I mean, that's the challenge, which is you're heading into an election year. The map is stacked against you, or history is stacked against you. Here we are talking about foreign policy and all these things that, if you asked a House member, is this what you want to be talking about every day? They would not. And now you have a 1-seat majority where you basically, have a bunch of renegades that are always causing you trouble and all these different factions, which we'll get to on healthcare. And then, kind of a very aggressive president who doesn't have the patience for a lot of this stuff. I think the problem politically is paralysis is not a good message to sell in an election, right? And if you can't get anything done, if you literally kind of can't function, you can't really pass rules with success, boy, it makes the Dems' hand even stronger in the midterms.
Well, think about it, just even in the short term, Dan, you've got 9 appropriations bills not done. Yep. You got to fund the government from last year. By the way, we're still talking about last year's fund.
Forget the next year. Forget fiscal 2027. Right. No, and they're talking about another reconciliation bill. Like, good luck on that. Dan, here's a question for you. Will Gavin Newsom play politics with this special to replace LaMoffa? Like, does he schedule it soon as you're supposed to, or does he sort of let Johnson sort of sweat a bit and not schedule it for a while?
That's a great question. Oh, by the way, Gavin Newsom was in the news yesterday with some pretty provocative tweet from one of his accounts, which at least on the left caused a lot of jumping up and down for the mocking. I don't know. It's a great question because I believe this is one of the districts that has been redistricted. And I think they feel more bullish. I don't know. I mean, no doubt he will look at that and see does it behoove us to get that, to call it quickly.
But you wouldn't run in the new district until, so it would be in LaMoffa's current.
Right.
Still, why even take? I mean, look, I'm not trying to give him any. I don't think he cares what I think, but I don't think. I mean, Gavin Newsom's not going to do the House Republicans any favor.
Yeah, any favor. I mean, that's what I was going to go to. I think he'll do whatever kind of serves his and the Democratic Party's best interest. Which, you know, newsflash is what almost every governor does in these situations.
Right.
So, especially in the more partisan states like California.
Let's move on and talk about healthcare. A bit of a deja vu moment. So, talks about healthcare are just heating up on Capitol Hill. There's going to be a vote, tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow on this discharge petition to extend the expiring Affordable Care Act subsidies. There's also a lot of meetings happening on Capitol Hill, both in the Senate and in the House, about some sort of deal to sort of reform the subsidies, but then extend them for a time. I have to say, though, I am hearing from a number of Republicans privately, Sean, that they are concerned about dragging the healthcare conversation out into the spring. I know you have said over and over again, the party has to address these subsidies. They have to do something. But I'm also hearing from people who are like, okay, we need to, pardon my language, shit or get off the pot right now. Like if we keep talking about healthcare through the spring, this is an issue that just crushes Republicans, and the likelihood of success and something passing is very small. Why give the Democrats a talking point? Is there any merit to that argument?
Yeah, there is. And there's some new polling. I mean, and just to be clear, I think my position is more aligned with the phrase that you used, meaning that like, if you're not going to do anything, then move on. Let's go. But don't screw around with this. Don't let it just percolate and if you're not going to deal with it, then move on. Let's start talking about a domestic agenda on energy or affordability or whatever. But don't keep this lingering if you're not going to actually address it. And that would be my position on this. Now, that being said, you heard the president's comments yesterday when he addressed the conference. There's a lot of people who are saying a lot of the same things. And I think Thune outlined the confines of a 3-pronged deal, which is you got to have the Hyde Amendment in there on pro-life stuff, because that's essential to the conservative movement.
Yeah,
I think
we should talk about
that's
that.
not what Trump said.
But I think that Thune gets that for his members who are up. The president obviously not in cycle, so it's not as big of a deal. But and there's got to be some expansion of health savings accounts, and that's just essential to what we deal with. And then there's got to be dealing with fraud and also payoffs to the insurance company. So there is definitely the contours of a deal. What frustrates, I think, me and a lot of folks is that like everybody, it's like one of those meetings where you keep going to the meeting and everyone keeps saying, here's what we need to do. And someone says like, is someone going to actually take the lead and get it done?
That's
like, I feel like this is everybody's gone in their own work experience to like this meeting. We are like, okay, we're all seem to be in agreement. When are we going to do it? And I feel like if you're a House or Senate Republican right now, you're like, okay, let's do it then. Let's stop.
Sean, is the Hyde Amendment in a bill?
100% has to be.
But that is a deal breaker for Democrats. So,
well, but look, here's the deal. I mean, there are certain, what was it? Barack Obama said elections have consequences. Republicans are in charge. There is no way that the Susan B. Anthony or Concerned Women for America are going to allow, this is what they do. This is the key to being a Republican. If you are not willing to cut taxes or stand up for life, then get out.
Well, Sorry,
go ahead, Dan. Go, please.
Well, I've always said Donald Trump's a great political athlete, and there's a reason yesterday that he kind of basically said, "Don't get bogged down on this and move on." I mean,
be a little flexible.
Yeah, I think was the great
quote. A little
quote.
Flexible on Hyde is what.
Look, I mean, I wrote a Substack in mid-December. It was the title, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" Like, I don't get what Republicans keep doing. We talked about this in July. We talked about this in October, talked about this in December. And to your point, Rachel, this is now dragging on where Donald Trump and his team 3 or 4 times have said in the last 6 months, we got to do this. Their pollsters have said, we got to do this. Like everyone is in agreement. A poll went up to the Republican Senate conference yesterday. If this is still going around in 2026, we are in trouble, not on the House side, on the Senate side. So it's like everybody knows they got to deal with this. Like, Sean, I don't think you could just say as a party, you know what, we decided we're not going to deal with this. Like, to your point, move on. Like, I just think it's untenable.
No. But what we could do is say we're going to focus on prescription drug prices. We're going to work on things.
Well, okay, so then you're saying, like, again, we're not dealing with the elephant in the room, which is real lives of real people, their insurance premiums going up. We can all argue about why that is, but there is a solution, a temporary kind of Band-Aid for millions that is sitting on the table. To me, as a Democrat, this is unbelievable. Like, this is the best gift we could ever have, that we are totally unified, basically on our side. We totally know what we want. The public is on our side. You have a Republican Party totally divided, and the smartest political minds keep saying, got to do this.
It's like a senior Democratic leadership aide said to me in the House last night, like, they win either way. Either Republicans move on and they have the talking point that Republicans did not address these skyrocketing premiums, or they try to address it, keep it front and center, and just continue to get, hit over the head with this issue that is not good for them politically. So anyway,
we've had some sponsors inquire in the betting markets about working with us. Sean, little gentleman's wager. If this is dealt with, I'm going to say Hyde is not ultimately in the bill.
Well, a friendly amendment to the wager, because to the president's point about not in the bill, I can see a scenario where they try to be cute by half by saying, it's not addressed for 2 years, but after the third year, I mean, very Washington.
Yeah, of course.
So is that in the bill or not?
Yeah, no, it will not be enacted in the legislation, because to your point, then he knows the Democratic Party would undo it and they'll never deal with it.
I can't. There's no way.
Okay.
No, it has to be.
Rachel,
I'm just going to bet that there's no deal. There's not going to be.
That's actually probably better.
But no, I tend to agree with Dan that if this were to come together, I think there wouldn't be the high restrictions that Republicans want. But
maybe not all.
Again, I don't think it's going to happen because of this issue.
But that's where I think the president said what he said for a reason, which is, I can give you some language that you can not feel like you completely ate it, but that it won't. We can buy 4 to 5 to 10 Democrats.
Chopped liver becomes filet mignon.
On that note,
what that is, though, see, here's the thing.
I get it.
You can get every Republican to buy in on this. So the question is, if you're asking people for flexibility, you're almost admitting from the jump that you don't need with a slim majority, with a 1-seat, 2-seat majority in the House, why would you immediately start by talking about needing flexibility on an issue that's core to the party?
So, Sean, you and I have always talked about this. Does Trump then lean in pretty soon? Like, by the State of the Union, does he say, God damn it, guys, this has got to, or does he keep playing armchair court? Guys, you should do this. Guys, you should do this.
He'll do that.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
I kind of feel like that's what it was yesterday, leaning in with the Hyde thing, and it's not the message they want to hear. At least on the Hyde amendment.
But also, why lead with that? You don't even have it's like you were worried about whether or not you got Sirius XM radio in a new car versus like how big the engine was. Like, I was like, why are we worried about Hyde when we don't even have the conflict?
Because Democrats will make that a big thing. I mean, look,
I get it, but
politically, it's in their advantage to play hard to get on this and to not want to, give away things that they don't want to give away, because it blows up in Republicans' face if a deal doesn't come together. So that's just
the politics are on our side on both of them. So great.
Let's move on to Mamdani, the gift who keeps on giving for Republicans. So the New York City mayor, he's got a top housing official who apparently called homeownership, get this, a weapon of white supremacy, and argued that property should be treated as a collective good. Let's go to element 5. I know I skipped element 4, but let's just go to element 5 to bring up this lady.
I think the reality is that for centuries we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good, and we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently, and it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
That's, I guess, Sia. I don't know how you spell her name. CEA. Sia Weaver. She is going to be the director of New York City's Office to Protect Tenants. Dan, does the Democratic Party in America need to think about private property differently?
No, I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, it's outrageous. It's fundamentally like un-American and communist. I mean, it really is almost reverse apartheid. I mean, that's really kind of where you're going with this a little bit.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, so Mamdani's making announcements of appointments. Clearly, people are going through and looking at what they've said in the past. He backed her up when presented with this information. And in some cases, as previously, the Mamdani administration has had people resign or announce they're not going to, continue to put their name forward. He doubled down on this person. She's I believe 37 years old, which no reason a housing leader can't be young, but you look at the optics of that. I mean, that is going to be in TV commercials. You talk about the administration is going to be the Trump administration has said they're going to have a housing initiative here. Like, we'll see if it ever materializes, but the cost of housing is an issue. What she said and what they're kind of doubling down on is horrifying. It's horrifying for New York City, in my opinion, but for Democrats are going to have to defend this type of stuff. It's just unbelievable. Like, what does Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer say? It's unbelievable.
I have said this before. I'll say it again. This is why when all the Democrats were freaking out and people in the media, why aren't Democratic leaders endorsing Mamdani? This is why.
Yep.
This is why you don't endorse him, because now you're responsible for everything that comes out of his mouth. And guess what? Jeffries has a majority to win. Like, he endorsed this guy. Like, how does that help these frontliners who are trying to flip the house?
Well, and think about the Long Island seats. Tom Suzy and others sitting right outside New York City. This is their media market. Yeah. Kathy Hochul's running. Do you want to be talking about this? No.
Sean,
the funny part about this is immediately people started digging around. Her mom owns a $1.6 million house in Tennessee. And you want to start, if you want to worry about collectivism, maybe you start by calling your mommy and telling her that we need to sell our house and let everyone move into it. I love this stuff. To be honest with you, what also grates on me is the language of the left. Like, if you listen to that clip again, it's like, we need to rethink the construct of collective. It's like, I cannot stand. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
Communism.
It's communism. You can just describe it like, we should all take your stuff and give it to me. When they try to use these weasel words and talk about, we need to redefine the meaning of this so that it's a collective good. They're couching it in an attempt to sell you crap. And I hope Republicans do more. Like, what upsets me is when something like that happens and I don't see, like, that was a moment yesterday. You talk about the conference meeting. They have a huge opportunity. They've got a ton of media there. They should have gone out and said, you know what we're going to do is we're going to stand for the values of America and individualism and capitalism and put Democrats on defense.
Yeah, like a random press conference to highlight it.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
So what do you guys? So you guys. So Rachel, that they have the House press conference today, the weekly conference. Jeffries is going to be there.
Sure.
So what do you think on our side? I mean, I'm guessing they either say, like, I haven't heard everything about it, kind of with Trump.
No, they can't. Yeah, they literally can't. They have to disavow it. Like,
no. Listen, I will bet you.
They're not going to disavow it.
Me earlier.
They have to disavow it.
They will not.
They will not.
Democratic leadership is not willing to say that private property should not be turned into a collective good.
Again, if we had a wager, I'm with Sean.
I'm going to role play this. Leader Jeffries yesterday to Mamdani said the following. You go, Donald Trump is trying to invade another country. That is he's going to immediately pivot.
You want to ask about this? Yeah, that's what he's going to scold the reporter or something. I mean,
Rachel,
look.
But here's the thing about Jeffries. Mm-hmm. He still has to worry about a primary.
Yeah.
Backed by Mamdani. And even if Mamdani tells someone don't do it, there's so much energy on the ground here in that crowd.
You better build some muscle then fast, because you got to be a leader of your party too. That's part of the job. One other thought on this, Sean, you sort of mentioned this, Sean, on this topic, but like, the challenge is everything is Venezuela, Greenland right now. And like, it's just really tough to break through. And you're right, like the Republicans are going to have to actively try to create headlines around this by talking about it at press conference, et cetera. Harmeet Dillon, who's the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, she tried to highlight it yesterday from the Trump administration, saying, if you are going after property owners because they're white, we will come after you. And so she tried to give it a little bit of a boost right there.
Again, I don't look at this. I feel like I have this outrage all the time, but how does no one in the media say what Dan just said? How do you literally target people because of the color of their skin and what they own in America? And no one in the media goes, I might want to ask somebody that question. Like, you talk about the Constitution being under attack, democracy dying in darkness. Holy smokes, we have the largest city in the country saying that we're going to take your property because of the color of your skin, and no one says a damn thing. The New York Times is like, hey, that's interesting. Maybe we should make a Wordle out of it.
Get me in that press conference. I'll ask about it, Sean. Let's go to questions. Let's go to questions right now. We've got a couple from X here. What has Trump done to lower costs? Main thing may be energy, but he also canceled plenty of renewable energy products, putting the U.S. far behind China in cheap and quick energy. Data centers running on oil and coal is unsustainable, both environmentally and economically. Who wants to take that?
I can start with it.
Sure, go ahead,
Dan. Look, I've always said this about energy. Yes, we should be investing in clean energy, but we also cannot ask Americans to pay higher prices when you have cheap coal and we have oil in the ground and it's a cheaper product. You just simply cannot ask people to pay a little bit more because it's the right thing to do. Like, to me, it's all of the above. I wish Trump would not cancel and kind of attack clean energy. I think I would invest in both kind of, what's in the ground and also what the future is, because I do worry, and you make this point, that China is continuing to invest and will own the future as this stuff gets cheaper. And once it crosses that line, whoever does control these cheaper alternatives will make a fortune.
Yeah, I would just say, number one, wind is a joke.
You sound like Donald Trump.
Spoken like a true Rhode Islander.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, like, wind is a feel good thing for a bunch of liberals. It's a horrible, horrible thing. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for the maritime industry. It's bad for maritime life. It doesn't produce crap. I mean, it is a total feel good thing. And Dan's right. Dan is right though on the at least what we have in the ground, and shale and all that stuff, where that actually will lower costs. LNG. Totally. Exports, et cetera. We should be investing more in nuclear. I would say drug costs is at the top of that list. What he has done to address the price of prescription drugs with Trump RX is a huge, huge win for seniors, people on fixed incomes, tens of millions of people that are dealing with GLP-1 drugs in particular. Those are all huge. I know this sounds crazy, but I'll also argue that what he is doing on tariffs may not be short-term, but long-term will benefit the United States in terms of costs, in terms of production, service industry, manufacturers. Having a level playing field is huge. One big thing that was really interesting yesterday, the White House pointed out, for all of the talk about tariffs, Ford and GM sold more cars last year, despite all these predictions that it would hurt the auto industry. And so, long term,
they have exemptions.
but the bottom line is, I would just say that for all of the doom and gloom, the economy is actually on a lot of fronts doing really well. Costs are coming down on a lot of fronts. So I as I said, there's a lot more to be done, and I think you're going to be seeing it. But I think that the president has a lot of credit to take on what he has done to lower costs.
No,
I will add this, and again, because there's so much going on, we haven't really talked about it, but I've called out where the U.S. economy has been struggling. The U.S. economy may be starting to pick up some steam, and I do want to recognize that some of these corporate profits. You listen to what some of the banks are starting to say about deals in the pipeline, about M&A activity, that there may be some steam picking up. I will also say, and again, this is like just the great politician in Trump, they have very quietly been freezing tariffs, giving carve-outs left and right. Is what they did in the first term, and you kind of hope no one sees it. But in fairness there, Sean, there is a lot of exemptions being made, which is smart. It's the right thing to do.
I was just talking to a Republican, House Republican the other day who was telling me they want him to scale back more tariffs. Like a lot of them are still not excited about this. And
if the court strikes it down, I will be stunned if the House and Senate pass the tariffs. I think they're
what happens?
No, but they won't. They'll just go to dispute resolution.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But I will say the bigger problem is going to be all this money that you've allocated through tariffs that the court. I firmly believe if the court strikes it down, you cannot say. And again, there is history in doing this where they have had to have the Commerce Department give it back. Is that you can't say it's wrong, but we get to keep the money because that's the nut of the case, which is you didn't have the right to take this money.
Yep.
Let's take another question from Twitter. Is the Republican Senate going to grow a pair and do what Mike Lee is saying so they can get some meaningful votes through like the SAVE Act or literally anything that MAGA wants accomplished? The SAVE Act is the election. The election, it requires like signature. Is that right? Or is it's a lot of different things.
And voting ID.
And vote. That's right. Voting ID. That's
citizenship.
Voting ID. Mm-hmm.
But this is one of those ones where, again, I mentioned taxes and pro-life stuff. Like if you're a Republican and you can't support the SAVE Act right now, then go home. Like this is what we've been talking about. And I feel like the president, to his credit, called it out yesterday. I don't know why we can't get this. This should be an easy.
It's passed the House.
Well, is what he talking about? I think he's talking about the filibuster. If he's talking about like anything MAGA wants accomplished in the Senate, but maybe he's just narrowly speaking to this. Look, as a Democrat, I find this hilarious because for 30, 40 years, we championed the federal government running elections and was always pushed back. Frankly, Mitch McConnell was the leader of saying elections are run by states and it's not a federal issue. You want the SAVE Act. Just remember, if once the federal government takes over elections, a Democrat gets in there, maybe we'll move elections to the weekend and have people all have off and make voting a lot easier. I mean, you live by this, you die by this. And I think MAGA will rue potentially the federal government taking over elections. But
well, I also look, this is one of those ones that there's a difference between elections that have to do with the federal government and talking about citizenship, which I don't know why that should be a controversial thing. Yeah. And state
non-citizens can't vote. I mean, it's already there. I mean, this is
but it's a matter of making sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why we would think that you could bring people into this country by the millions, give them a driver's license, which is the only thing that you need to register to vote, tell them that they can't question that driver's license and then wonder if people are voting illegal. It baffles me.
I hear you. You guys won Latinos, not us.
Let's go to another question, maybe from the chat. Actually, I saw one in the chat that made me chuckle for a second. Sean, when are you going on Dancing in the Stars again?
Yeah, well, I did go back. We had a reunion a couple weeks ago. I
want to see you dance.
Yeah, I have two hip
reunions
right now. I would, but with the hips,
So the question I think there was Barry Weiss.
Yes, here we go. Will Barry Weiss still be employed by CBS by the end of 2020?
Oh, yeah.
I think after this week, the question is, will Tony Dokow be hired?
Yeah. So I mean, look, Barry Weiss is taking it from the left, but at the end of the day, she serves at the leisure of the leadership and the board, which is firmly conservative. She's not going anywhere. They'll fire everyone else.
I agree.
Look, the only thing I would say, Dan, though, to this point is they may be ideological, but they're also capitalist.
Yeah.
And I would argue that if CBS tanks, they might fire. It's like, firing.
But I think ultimately what you're thinking is we will attract a more bipartisan heck, you could even say you would be the only conservative outlet amongst the traditional media.
Right. But I guess all I'm arguing is, I think that if she might not, like, I don't, if
too much of a lightning rod.
The question is, will she be around? I think it's not an ideological question. I think it's a capital question. Is this panning? Is she the right person to implement these changes? And maybe they bring in, a player to be named later to implement this agenda. It's the same agenda. Is she the right player? I don't know.
Fair enough. That's a good
You also have to think about maybe what she wants. I mean, like, She is just
Who?
getting savaged by her own staff internally, by people on the outside. Like, does she get
There's
some point and
something
be like,
about
this
getting
is not working,
$100
I'm out of
million
here.
that makes that a little easier.
Yeah, she may have golden
My
handcuffs.
salary helps.
Yeah.
Let's take another one. DC Huddle, the talked up peace deal in Ukraine from the end of the year has disappeared. Is there any movement on this?
Yeah, that's a great. You know what? Look, this is one of those things where we try not to have 20 topics and not get to all of them or not give them enough due. And this was one that we talked about putting on here. I mean, for those who didn't see it, it was a big announcement. The Europeans and Steve Witkoff and meeting in Europe have basically come up with a security guarantee for Ukraine that Ukraine is happy with. The French, the Germans, and the United States all are pleased with. It's strong by most accounts. We don't have all the details. The real question is Putin. And for those who didn't see it, Trump this weekend kind of said he's really frustrated again with Putin. It sounds like this drone attack on his residence was manufactured. It was fake. Trump seems to be angry with Putin about that fact too. Again, shock and awe. There's so much going on. How do you end that war?
And now we're chasing a submarine or a vessel that has like Russian ties right now, going after us.
Oh, and by the way, I will tip my hat to Rubio and everyone in Venezuela. We're cutting oil off to China, Russia, and Iran and Cuba, which is that is a good development. But what do you do with Putin? He's still on the march. And after we go into Venezuela and Greenland, he's going to be like, what's mine is mine. I want those rare earths.
Yeah, I've been very consistent on this. It is a ping pong. Like, you get Ukraine and Europe on board on something. Putin says, I can't do that. And then everybody says, okay, well, let's talk to Russia. And then Ukraine and Europe say, there's no way we can do it. I mean, this is just not going to get solved.
We've got one more. Let's do one more question. Who does Sean think Dan Bongino will target in his return to podcasting? He has declared he will be targeting black pill MAGA grifters.
I'm here for it.
So I
already happening, by the way.
I've been in touch with Dan. He is excited to be back in at least and reunited with his family. I mean, I commiserated with Dan over text. People don't appreciate sometimes, service at that level. And Dan lives in Florida. His wife obviously stayed back, and like those things matter. Like, when people go serve, and it's not a whining, complaining thing. It's just there is sacrifice at that level of government, because you're not making a ton of money. There's a lot of constraints of what you can do, what you can say. And he really went out of his way to serve the country and do what he thought was the right thing. And appreciate that, because I know a little bit about what it's like to go off and have to do some of these things. To your question, though, you saw a little bit of back and forth with Matt Gaetz and some others who questioned, what he did and how he did it. I think there's no question. If you know Dan, he is a no nonsense, no BS kind of guy. And I have a feeling when he said that, if you haven't followed it, he made all of these sort of claims on Twitter yesterday where he said, hey, I'm going to come out. And I don't doubt that guy for 1 second. So if you pissed Dan Bongino off or crapped all over him in the last 12 months while he's been serving the country, here you go.
Sean, so let me ask you this. The Epstein files, 1% or so, they've said, is out, right? There's supposed to be over $1 million more documents.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I mean,
so let's assume there's going to be more stuff coming out, right? It like dripping out, however the administration figures out a way to do this. Bongino, prior to going in, was captain cheerleader of this is way worse than, the public knows and conspiracy. Does he pop off at, not Trump, but at the administration? Is he a thorn in their side on the Epstein files?
Of course, against Bondi, right? They'd had like a huge rift. He's going to go after her hardcore.
Kash Patel?
I think it may not be. Look, my guess is there's a difference when Dan talks about black pill and MAGA grifters. These are people who are taking pot shots that are unwarranted. I think I wasn't privy to the back and forth that he had with the attorney general. There's a difference between somebody undermining your integrity and having a policy dispute or a tactical dispute, which I think is what he had with the attorney general. I've not asked him about that. I don't know. But I think there's a big difference between two people having a policy or rollout logistical difference and someone taking personal pot shots at you for how you're doing your job, which is not what that was. I have a feeling that like he will maybe allude to stuff. But again, remember, there are things that he was privy to in a confidential, classified manner that he can't talk about. And I don't think Dan would ever betray that trust in any way, shape, or form. So I think there's a difference. What I interpret what he's saying is he's going after, like you saw this Twitter back and forth between him and Matt Gaetz. Yeah. That to me is the kind of thing that we're taught, that I see happening more of, where he calls out somebody for having no clue what he was really dealing with or how he was dealing with it. I don't think, and I think he may allude to some of the frustrations he had in the government, but I don't see him violating any degree of trust or kind of conjuring up any controversies with the current administration.
Well, I'll tune in if he does. It's good for ratings.
We'll see. His tweets are already dominating my my Twitter account here in his war with Matt Gaetz. Okay, guys, that's all the time we have for right now. Sean, what do you have coming up today on your show?
Jake Ellzey, congressman from Texas. He's a member of the Appropriations Committee, United States Naval Academy graduate, aviator. I mean, so we're going to talk Venezuela. We're going to talk the appropriations process. We're going to talk how the president's message went over yesterday. We got a lot to break down with him. And by the way, I got to tell you, that conversation I had with Tim Parlatore yesterday, we got into Mark Kelly. We got into the back and forth with Dan Bongino and Sean Ryan. It was one of those shows where sometimes you ask questions and you think you might know the answer. It was worth the watch if you want to understand the Mark Kelly situation, because Mark Kelly will have his rank and his pay reduced after what I heard from Tim yesterday.
Guys, make sure you go sign up on our YouTube page at the DC Huddle and go to the DCHuddle.com, sign up for our email list. We want you on the email list and we want you to subscribe. So we will be back
format. Remember, on Fridays, we will open this up and take questions.
That's right.
On air.
And we will have an announcement tomorrow morning on a related note. Tune in.
Yeah. So Huddle fans, get ready because we've got some more stuff rolling out. So we'll talk tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
Yes. Have a good Wednesday.